Hello and welcome to Firstpost America, your home for the biggest stories shaping the US and the world. I'm Cary, Johnston, live from the Firstpost studios. Our top story on the show today. With unrest shaking Iran and the US openly weighing its options, is a decisive strike now imminent? Also on the program, Denmark says there's a fundamental disagreement with the US over Greenland sovereignty, following talks at the White House. After another shooting incident in Minneapolis, are US immigration enforcement detention centers at breaking point? And Elon Musk speaks out on Grok after a backlash over sexualized images, but will he take responsibility? Today we begin with a nation on edge. Iran is burning with protests and Washington is weighing up its options. Behind closed doors, the question is no longer if the United States will act, but when. Multiple reports now suggest that a US strike on Iran could come within the next 24 hours. Well, this comes on the 17th day of deadly protests across the country, protests that have shaken the Islamic Republic and called for an end to the Ayatollah's rule. Tehran, meanwhile, is issuing warnings. It says it's ready to defend itself against any foreign threat. In Washington, the mood has shifted. President Donald Trump has held several meetings with his advisors. After those meetings, the possibility of a US strike moved from theory to planning. Reports say Washington is ready to go ahead, but there's another issue that could stall any military action. Officials say Iran's financial system is close to collapse, and if the banks go down, then Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps does not get paid. Neither do other pillars of the regime. Rumors are that White House believes if that happens, the regime may collapse on its own. Trump could therefore simply wait for that to happen, but he may not wait forever. The president has been openly mulling direct action over the past few days.
There's been protesters killed in Iran. You said we were locked and loaded, ready to go. What is the line there for when the U.S. is going to get involved in those protests?
We'll take a look. We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
And yet, despite reports that the death toll has crossed 12,000, the U.S. has so far held back. But that restraint appears to be thinning. Just look at the signals on the ground. The United Kingdom has shut its embassy in Tehran. Spain, India and Poland have urged their citizens to leave Iran. Tehran has temporarily closed its airspace to most flights, and the US has begun moving its people. American personnel were withdrawn from the Al Udeid air base in Qatar. That's the largest US base in the Middle East. Around 10,000 troops are stationed there. US officials say it's a precaution, but precautions are usually taken when something feels close. Western military officials say all signals point to an imminent attack, but they also add a caveat. This administration thrives on unpredictability. Keeping everyone guessing is part of the strategy. We saw that in Venezuela, where strikes were suddenly carried out in a Latin American country during the early hours of a weekend. And now, European officials say US intervention could come in Iran within a day. According to reports, Trump wants action to be swift, decisive, and not turn into another long, grinding war. Trump also told reporters he had learned that Iran had stopped killing protesters and had paused executions.
But we've been told on good authority, and I hope it's true. Who knows, right? Who knows?
We've
Crazy
seen the body
world.
bags, so how do you trust
No,
them?
you've seen that over the last few days, and they said people were shooting at them with guns and they were shooting back, and it's one of those things, but they told me that there'll be no executions, and so I hope that's true.
Does this mean military action is now off the table against Iran?
We're going to watch and see what the process is, but we were given a very good statement by people that are aware of what's going on.
So here we are. Iran is burning due to protests. People are dying. And Tehran is issuing defiant warnings while Washington is reportedly watching the clock. Well, the coming hours and days may well be decisive. Well, for more on this now, we have with us Luciana Zachara, who's a Middle East and Gulf political analyst, joining us live from Qatar. Welcome to the programme. So, given the signals that we've seen, just how far down the line do you think America is in terms of planning when it comes to possible military action against Iran?
Well, as you said recently, we don't know because many times we hear Trump bluffing about doing something and then finally it's not happening. We have been ready for several days for this military attack that so far did not happen based on what Trump has been announcing. And based on what Trump has been announcing, considering what's happening in Iran, he claimed that if the government kills people, we will enter. If they execute people, we will enter. And so far, this is happening, and he did not react. So we are still waiting. We still need to wait for 48 hours. But I start to think that if this attack finally happens, it's not going to be nothing as we have been planning or expecting or speculating about, because Trump is somehow surprising allies and enemies. And what I have been saying this couple of days is still we don't know what is the end game of Trump in Iran. We don't know if Trump wants to destroy the military facilities, nuclear facilities, to help the Iranian people to overthrow the regime, to overthrow the regime himself, to hijack Ali Khamenei, the leader of Iran, to eliminate key people, key figures, the military, political figures. We don't know what he wants. And since we don't know what he wants, but we know he wants to win because he said it clearly, he needs to invest the necessary resources or assets in order to achieve that goal. And it seems that the military authorities in the United States told him, okay, but what you want to do with the actions we are going to take is not going to happen. So that's why he decided for now, for the time being, not to do so until he decides what to do and with which resources.
Well, you make an interesting point there. And if this should happen, and it's a big if, what kind of targets do you think the US would be looking at trying to hit?
Again, this has to do with which objectives he had. When he engaged in Iran in June, was following the lead of Israel. Israel wanted to eliminate all the missile and nuclear facilities, and they couldn't finish the job by themselves. So they requested the US to use the big bombers to reach those bunkers that they were not able to do by themselves. Trump yesterday itself, he said, we already did that. We already destroyed everything. So it's going to do the same. It's going to bomb again the same facilities that he did in June. I don't think so. So if it's going to do something, it's going to be something different of what he did because he claimed victory last time. So what he needs to do, or what he wants to do, helping the Iranian people. He said, keep protesting because help is on its way. Help to do what? To fight in the streets against the government troops, to occupy the institution as he requested his own people, to eliminate physically the political elite. So for all that, you need troops in the ground. You cannot do it with the aerial attack. And Trump has been very clear, he doesn't want to engage in a military presence in Iran. He doesn't want to invade the country. So what he wants to do, just a chirurgical attack to do something that finally will not reach the objective he wants.
So let me just ask you there, if I may just jump in. Yeah. What could be the fallout regionally then and beyond of any American action if it takes place?
Well, the region is very clear. I mean, the GCC countries, Pakistan, many other countries said that they don't want a military intervention, but because we know what happened with other countries. So bombing Iran will, first of all, create a reason for Iran to retaliate against US bases in the region, in Iraq, and in the GCC mainly. And Iran already did that in June here in Qatar. And I mean, all here, we are waiting for this to happen. We have been 2 days looking at the sky and looking on internet to see whether the attack, the United States attack, is happening, because we know that there's going to be a retaliation. And on the other hand, nobody wants a vacuum of power in Iran. A vacuum of power in Iran with the military power they have, with 1 million soldiers, that so far they have been loyal, and they are still loyal to the Islamic Republic and to the leader, could be dangerous. Moreover, when there is part of the political elite and military elite that they want to reach this nuclear threshold to increase the deterrence capability against its enemies. So there are many inconveniences or obstacles that they are making the GCC states, Iraq, and other countries in the region to request or to demand the U.S. not to bomb nor to intervene in Iran. Lately, Saudi Arabia, I think yesterday, Qatar also, they already did. They said that they don't allow the U.S., they do not authorize the U.S. to use the airspace to bomb Iran. So they have been very clear on what they don't want.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Luciano Zaccaria, thank you very much for joining us here on Firstpost America. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, yesterday, officials from Denmark and Greenland walked into the White House hoping for clarity over Donald Trump's desire to own Greenland. They walked out with confirmation, but not the confirmation they'd wanted. The United States has not dropped its demands. After meeting President Trump's team in Washington, the Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers described the talks as constructive, diplomatic and civil. But behind the scenes, the disagreement was stark. Denmark's foreign minister said it was absolutely not necessary for the US to seize Greenland, self-governing territory within the Danish kingdom. And yet he admitted that they'd failed to change Trump's ambitions.
We didn't manage to change the American position. It's clear that the president has this wish of conquering over Greenland. We made it very, very clear that this is not in the interest of the kingdom. There's a government in Greenland with support from 3/4 of the Greenlandic population. The premier made it very, very clear yesterday that Greenland, for the time being and for foreseeable future, will remain within the kingdom of Denmark.
The talks brought together Denmark, Greenland and top American officials. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance were the hosts. The meeting ended after nearly an hour, but there was no breakthrough or retreat. What they did agree on was to keep talking. A working group will now be formed in an attempt to address American security concerns without crossing Denmark's red lines.
We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. We expect that such a group will meet for a first time within a matter of weeks.
President Trump, meanwhile, remains unmoved. He says the United States needs Greenland for national security and that European promises are not enough. He said that something eventually will work out. Well, from the Oval Office, Trump went further. He said Greenland is vital not just for American security, but for Denmark's as well. Denmark, in his view, cannot protect it if Russia or China decides to act.
Well, we're going to see what happens with Greenland. We need Greenland for national security, so we're going to see what happens. They're going to brief me on the meeting right after this conference. In fact, the sooner I get you out, the faster I'm going to know exactly what happened. But we have a very good relationship with Denmark, as you know. We'll see. But, we're doing the Golden Dome. We're doing a lot of things, and we really need it. If we don't go in, Russia's going to go in, and China's going to go in. And there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it, but we can do everything about it.
But Europe is pushing back. France, Germany and Norway have pledged troops to a Denmark-led multinational force. They plan a stronger military presence in and around Greenland, with NATO allies involved. The message is unmistakable. Greenland is not undefended, and it's not alone.
Now, we are going to have a larger military footprint, and we are doing so because we believe it is the right thing to do. Also in relation to the need to have a greater degree of presence together with other NATO allies. This is also something that we have discussed continuously in NATO over the past 2 years, where I myself have strongly argued that NATO needs to take a greater interest in security to become a part of the NATO framework.
Well, NATO countries often train together. The Arctic has seen years of joint exercises. The US already has around 150 troops, at its Bugatti space base in Greenland. But timing matters, as does symbolism. This show of unity comes at a moment of deep strain inside NATO because for the first time in decades, Europe is confronting an unthinkable question. What happens when NATO's most powerful member talks about annexing the territory of another? But all this has also rattled Russia. It says it's seriously concerned by the arrival of NATO forces in Greenland. So Greenland is no longer just ice and geography, or the world's largest island, albeit with a small population. It's now become a centre of power, security and sovereignty. And how this standoff ends could redefine alliances that until now have been good for generations. Well, still to come on the programme, why Bugatti is shifting gears from supercars to super luxury homes. Is exclusivity itself being redefined? US immigration enforcement is under growing scrutiny, not just for its street-level tactics, but for what happens behind the walls of detention centres. Days after an immigration agent fatally shot Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis, a fresh incident was reported on Wednesday. A federal officer shot a Venezuelan man in the leg during an arrest. Officials say the officer was being attacked with a shovel. Well, the latest shooting has heightened fear and anger in the city, leading to protests, tear gas and street clashes. But beyond the streets, new data shows immigration detention itself is proving deadly. Multiple deaths have been reported in Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, detention. The Trump administration says that at least 4 people have died in detention so far in 2026. All 4 deaths occurred within the first 10 days of the year. The detainees were all men, aged between 42 and 68. US Immigration and Customs Enforcement claimed the deaths of 2 detainees were linked to heart-related medical issues. Well, the causes of death in the remaining 2 cases were not specified. Only one of those deaths has been formally listed as being under investigation. As of the end of December, more than 68,000 adults were being held in ICE facilities, a stunning rise from the figure from a year earlier. 2025 was the deadliest year when it comes to ICE detention in over 2 decades. At least 30 people died in immigration custody last year. That single-year figure exceeds the total number of detainee deaths recorded during the entire Biden administration. Advocacy groups say the numbers point to systemic problems and are not isolated incidents. Concerns over medical care in detention centres have also been repeatedly raised by independent observers. Reports say up to 95% of deaths in ICE custody could have been prevented with proper medical treatment. Medical experts examining immigration detention conditions have found widespread failures, including incorrect treatment, delayed diagnosis, and long waits for emergency care. ICE has said it's committed to detainee safety, but critics argue oversight remains weak as detention numbers continue to climb. Well, as enforcement actions intensify and detention numbers rise, questions are mounting over accountability, both on the streets and inside America's immigration detention system. Now, when you own something, the responsibility is yours, be it a house, a car, or a company. And that question is now being asked of Elon Musk. The tech billionaire has moved to tighten controls on his artificial intelligence tool, Grok. This follows global outrage over sexually altered images of women and children circulating online. Musk's X, formerly known as Twitter, announced changes on Wednesday, saying its AI chatbot, Grok, will no longer be allowed to edit images of people to show them in revealing clothing. Users were using Grok to generate sexually explicit images, many of naked females and minors. Rights groups have been outraged.
We are telling them that they are enabling a system in which thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people, particularly women and children, are being sexually abused through the help of their own app stores. And we're saying this is not acceptable.
The company says new safeguards are now being put in place. These restrictions will apply to all users, including paid subscribers. In regions where such content is illegal, the feature will be fully blocked. X says the goal is accountability and to prevent violations of both the law and platform policies. Well, the decision came just hours after Musk said he was not aware of any naked underage images generated by Grok. He later said that AI does not act on its own, it only responds to user prompts. Musk added that Grok is programmed to refuse illegal requests and must follow local laws. But there are some glaring questions on the table. How can such content be allowed to spread at scale without oversight? If Musk comments on almost everything, every day on his own platform, then how did this escape notice? Is ignorance an explanation or an excuse? Concerns around Grok are not limited to one or two countries. In the United States, authorities are probing the spread of sexualized AI deepfakes. In the United Kingdom, regulators are investigating whether X violated online safety laws, as new legislation criminalizing such images is set to take effect.
The actions of Grok and X are disgusting and they're shameful. And frankly, the decision to then turn this into a premium service is horrific. And we're absolutely determined to take action here. We've made it clear that X has to act, and if not, Ofcom has our full backing and will introduce and are introducing legislation.
Well, several countries have already taken firm action. Malaysia and Indonesia have moved to ban Grok. Meanwhile, the Philippines is planning to block the AI tool. The European Commission is examining cases involving explicit AI-generated images of minors. France, Italy, Germany and Australia have also launched investigations or issued legal warnings. As pressure builds worldwide, Musk's decision to restrict Grok marks a turning point. When artificial intelligence first emerged, the debate focused on humans versus machines. But with AI becoming ever more sophisticated, the question is, if humans design it, deploy it, and profit from it, then who is accountable when AI causes harm? Bugatti. It's a name synonymous with speed and excess, but it's now entering a very different race, not on the track, but on the skyline. In Dubai, the French luxury car maker is building its first residential tower. Apartments are priced in the millions, with penthouses costing far more. Some homes will even feature private lifts for cars, allowing owners to park inside their apartments. Well, it's all steering towards another level of luxury. Here's our report.
Bugatti has spent more than a century mastering speed. Now the legendary French marque is slowing things down, not to lose momentum, but to build permanence. Its latest statement is not a car, it is a home, and it rises straight into the Dubai sky. In the United Arab Emirates, Bugatti is constructing its first residential tower. The 43-story project places the brand firmly inside one of the fastest-growing playgrounds for the global elite, branded real estate. Entry prices begin at $5.2 million, and the top-end penthouses cost many times that. The tower, developed with Bugatti properties, is designed to be as theatrical as a hypercar launch. Some penthouses include private vehicle lifts. Owners can drive their cars into the building and park them inside their apartments. No valet, no basement, just glass, steel, and horsepower hovering above the city. For the developer, the idea is simple. People don't just want to own a brand anymore, says Chairman Mohammed bin Gadi. They want to live inside it. That promise is already attracting global attention. Buyers reportedly include Brazilian football superstar Neymar Jr. and opera icon Andrea Bocelli. Neymar is said to have paid $54 million for one penthouse, while the building is not even finished. Bugatti's move reflects a much larger shift. According to a real estate consultant in Dubai, branded residential projects have exploded worldwide. There were just 169 such developments in 2011. Today, there are 611. By 2030, that number is forecast to cross 1,000. The United States still hosts the most branded towers, clustered around Miami and New York, But the Middle East is growing faster than anywhere else. The real estate consultant highlights that this surge is being driven largely by expansion in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And Dubai now sits at the center of that growth. A separate report by another estate agent in Dubai shows the city leads the world for branded residential projects under development. A steady flow of wealthy relocations and luxury home purchases continues to fuel demand. Price also plays a role. Despite its glitz, Dubai is comparatively cheap. Once hotel brands dominated this niche, Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton. That era is fading. Car makers and fashion houses are now claiming territory. The financial logic is clear. Developers absorb construction risk. Brands collect licensing revenue. Buyers pay a 30 to 40% premium for exclusivity, design, and identity. Many projects now offer private members clubs, wellness spas, yacht access, and private jet partnerships. But Bugatti is not the only one. Porsche opened its design tower in Miami in 2017. Aston Martin launched its Miami residences last year. Jacob & Co. is building a branded tower on Al Marjan Island, due in 2027. Marketing experts say these homes have become modern status symbols, but critics warn of overexposure. Too much branding, they say, risks turning rarity into noise. As luxury brands race to stamp their logos on the skyline, the real question is this: when everyone can buy exclusivity, who truly owns it?
Well, that's it on the show today, but we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.